Hello there, and welcome to the new Fixed Ops show for 2025. This is actually the second show in the series. And if you haven't checked out the show yet, I'm going to start with a clip from the first show, which was last week. The focus of the show today will be on retaining, attracting, and growing service departments. I'm going to share a bunch of information. I may or may not have guests today just because of Valentine's Day, and if that's not the case, in terms of people don't show up because of that, that's fine. Either way,
in progress.
Either way, I'm looking forward to starting with a quick video. So here we go. Where's my play button? There it is. Here we go. And good afternoon. So that's a section from the first Fixed Ops show. Obviously, you can watch the entire show on our YouTube channel. And let's get into it. I'm going to start with our trailer. Here we go. Yeah. Pardon, sorry? Yeah. Did you want me to send you a link? Because I'm just doing the show right now. Okay. I'll send it to you right now. All right. Bye. All right. Good morning and welcome. Good afternoon. Good evening. And of course, welcome to the Fixed Ops show. We have some guests on. We actually did have Kaylee on, but it looks like Kaylee didn't want to be on the show for whatever reason. So we're going to have AJ joining in a minute. I'm just going to send him a quick link. And AJ, if you don't know AJ Tacito, he is basically a person that does marketing for car dealers. And more importantly, he does marketing at scale. So I'm just going to send him a quick link and we'll start the show a minute or so late. So here we go. 1 second. And in terms of while I'm waiting for AJ, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up a quick survey that I did, and that survey is about what you can do to improve things in the department of your store, but more importantly, what people think you can improve there. So Let me just send this quickly to AJ, and he's coming in. And then from a point of view of fixed operations, I did a number of different interviews today with a number of different companies, and you're going to see that very, very soon because I'm interviewing those now. But you will also see a number of different technology products as I get into the business there of sharing those videos. I am finishing up the NADA pieces now as well. So if you are looking for NADA style videos, if you didn't have a chance to hit New Orleans in the snowstorm, that will be live very shortly. I just got to send this real quick. Here we go. So happy Valentine's Day to everybody. And looking forward to talking about retaining, attracting, and growing service departments as we roll into 2025. And as I said earlier, we were looking at obviously some things here in terms of training process enhancement. That seems to be the number one thing so far. Sell more accessories, margins need to increase, and lower rates, better leases. That seems to be the synopsis from people out there on LinkedIn. Obviously love to hear everybody else's thoughts there. But as you're looking at growing a service department, one of the things that came up on the number of interviews that I did today was the fact that, there is a number of different silos in car dealerships and has been for many years, whether it's the service department, the parts department, the department around body shops in some cases, the finance department, and of course sales and reconditioning. There's a number of different silos at most car dealerships. Now, as Steve Greenfeld predicted a number of years ago, I actually have just in case you weren't aware, I have an interview out there when he was talking about his book, The Future of Car Dealerships. When he was talking about the future of car dealerships.
Go ahead, Russell.
There you go. How you doing, AJ?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Rock and roll. So let me just switch up so we have AJ on the same screen as me here. Just give me 1 sec. I'm going to move him over. What is going on with... Oh, that's why. How come you're not showing up on the same screen? That's interesting. So I have AJ here on, so I'm just going to put him on the same screen so everyone can see him. So AJ, obviously, maybe you can talk a little bit about you and introduce yourself. And from there, maybe you can talk a little bit about how you feel you can help dealers on the service side of the business as we roll into 2025. We're breaking down those silos. So go ahead.
And yeah, I got a lot of feedback. I got to figure out what's going on before I talk because there's something going on in the background.
I'm just going to remove your note taker. Maybe that's it.
Recording stopped.
Applying for our products. We just started our 5th year. We got 620 stores, and we'll try.
There's something playing in the background?
Yeah, there is. I don't know where it's coming from. Let me see if I can find it.
Not a problem. So while we're waiting for AJ to clean that up, I'm just going to mute him, and then I'm going to go into sort of what I learned today from the interviews I did. I did actually 3 interviews today, and I've been obviously editing the interviews from NADA 2025. So if you were at NADA or didn't have the opportunity, definitely check out. I'm going to have probably 10 to 50 interviews by the time I'm done. And those interviews are up, some of them anyway, on the YouTube channel for AutoHubShow.com. So you can look that up on YouTube. But also when you're looking at different technology in all departments at car dealers, including the service department, the number one thing that came up in the survey so far was training and integration. And the reason I was talking about that today with a number of different people was as we look at shrinking margins on the sales side of the house, we look at increasing car prices, and we look at probably a rise in used car prices with tariffs and other things going on globally in 2025. It was really a question of, could we get those teams together, be it service, parts, technicians, body shop, whatever you have at your dealership, to not only create a better customer experience, but to drive more revenue. So when you look at dealerships today and you look at the retention number on average in car dealers versus third parties, be that Jiffy Lube or pick your poison, that number in terms of retention for new car customers over time with longer ownership terms is not what it needs to be. But more importantly, what dealers around you, whether they be franchise dealers or third parties, are eating your lunch. So the first question is, how can you retain more customers out there? How can you market to those customers more effectively? But more importantly, how can you do that over time so you can convert those customers into parts customers, into body shop customers, and then eventually into sales customers? And I actually did an interview right before the show today with a good friend of mine where we were talking about oil change for life programs. And we were also talking about a program I'd never seen before called tire storage for life. And I was talking to him because I was like, hey, years ago when I worked for Nissan, there was a store and I was talking to a service manager that I work with. And he said, not only am I getting free oil changes to the guy who bought the car initially, I'm now giving free oil changes to the guy who bought the car from the guy before. And then a couple of years later, they changed over to a Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram store. So I said, so that guy who was getting free oil changes for Nissan, is he still coming here to get free oil changes for the Chrysler store? And I was laughing about it. But we have AJ on. So AJ, maybe you can talk a little bit about what you do, what you're all about, but more importantly, when you look at that problem with revenue in the whole building, so that could be service, parts, recalls, F&I, sales, and bringing it all together to retain that customer. What do you think the best approach is for a car dealer in 2025 as maybe front-end sales revenue is declining? What do you think?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question, Ian. Thank you for having me on the show. I
No
love
worries.
the show. I think you do such a great job, and you always got a lot of interesting people with a lot of great information. And every dealer in America and Canada ought to be listening to this show. It's absolutely terrific.
Thanks very much.
Tacito Direct is my company. We're a 45-year company based in Dallas, Texas. And all we do is primarily direct mail advertising. We do some email advertising, but primarily direct mail for the auto industry. All three tiers of the OEMs. We've worked with over 3,000 dealerships, and we've conducted over 54,000 campaigns.
Wow.
One of the things that I think that we really need to agree on is that dealership customers is a misnomer. And I really, really want to stand by this because, just because you sold a car or just because you serviced a car to a person a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 10 years ago, that guy is not your customer. Not in this day and age. It was at one time when there wasn't such a plethora of information out there where a customer all he has to do is turn his phone on and he's getting bombarded with information and opportunities. But your customer is no longer your customer. He's only your customer if he's on your lot, in your showroom, in your service drive, or in your seated waiting area at your dealership. So the first thing that dealers have to recognize is, the fact that customer retention on the corporate level is down into the 20s, it's because dealers' retention is down in the 20s, and they don't even realize it.
Right.
And I think that what has to happen is to recognize it on a basis of understanding your database, making sure that your database is clean. We send out some stuff sometimes from dealers that give us data, and the data is old and bad. And the customer says, I've had that car for 8 years. I totaled that car 6 years ago, or that I traded that car for this car at your dealership 2 years ago. And there's just bad information in the database. So the first thing is to have a conscientious effort of making sure that the data is really clean and really scrubbed and well done. And Tacito can help you with that. We've been doing that for dealers for the last 35 years. But ongoing, in this case, first you want to talk about service programs. One of the things that dealers have done also is said, oh, well, I do mail programs through the factory. Well, those factory programs are factory programs. They're designed to do what the factory wants to do. They're not good for you as an individual dealership. You're facing dealer. If you're a Ford dealer, your competition is not Chevrolet. Your competition is not Toyota or Nissan. Your competition is your facing Ford dealer. And
Right.
so how are we going to come back to you, your dealership? And the only way to do that is to maintain a consistent relationship with them. Direct mail is one of them. Service, you can do it in sales, you can do it all, stay in touch with your customers, get a plan, whether it's monthly, quarterly, semi-annually or annually, but get a plan together where you're reaching out to your customers, letting them know that you still love them and that you still consider them as their customer, but give them a reason to come in and give them a reason to buy something from you.
Yeah, share the love, especially on Valentine's Day. And that's probably why we had less guests today. I think some men were in the doghouse and some ladies were trying to sort that out, because I know I had Kaylee on momentarily there, and I think she realized it was Valentine's Day, which was kind of funny. So if you look at the 5 silos, so what I talk about, the 5 silos, I talk about sales, F&I, service, parts, and maybe a body shop. And I'm talking to a client that says, hey, I want to do direct mail. I want to do marketing. I want to share the love. I want to connect these departments. I want to finally turn it into one big business where it pollinates each department. And I want to do, say, quarterly or monthly mailings or digital. How do I, as a dealer, say, okay, how do I get that result? But more importantly, what does that look like over, say, that 30, 60, 90 days for a dealer who maybe isn't familiar with these offers, non-factory, like customized offers? Like, what does that look like for them to grow all those things?
Well, one of the neat things that we do with our direct mail is we put different offers in it.
Mm-hmm.
We can have service campaigns, service coupons, where the customer is actually driven directly to the service department.
Right.
QR code will take them right to the service page.
Yep.
Or new car sales, the QR code can take them right to the inventory and VDP pages, individual VDP pages. Or used car inventory, we can take them directly to there. We can take them directly to finance. So all the different body shop, anything you want, but you can have a multifaceted offer piece. And what happens also is, or the factory does a lot, is they'll make it just service, or they'll just make it one car campaign or something like that. They have to realize one of the benefits of being a dealer is you have all these other profit centers that you can take advantage of. Just make sure when you're targeting these people, they might not be in the market for a new car, but it sure might be time for them to bring their car in for service, or vice versa. You might have them in for service, but you might be able to buy their used car and put it in your used car lot and sell them a new car. So lots of different ways to work together.
So let's say that dealer has a retention number of 30 to 40%, or at least that's what they think based on dirty data. What have you seen over your long-standing expertise in this area? What have you seen in terms of results for a dealer who says, hey, I want to do a quarterly mailing for sales, I want to do a quarterly mailing or a monthly mailing for service, I want a parts offer? What is the upside for them if they invest money over the long term? Because we all know it's got to be over the long term to get those results. What have you seen as some success stories, some results there, when you actually, instead of having 5 silos, you have one business and you're working together in the same direction?
Yeah, well, just staying in touch with the customers, approaching them as a customer for life, talking to them about customer for life, acting like they're going to be a customer for life, and be forward thinking, when you talk to them and when you schedule different things for them down the road so that they can anticipate things that are coming up as far as service offers or campaigns that you have coming up, so that there's always looking forward to the next deal that you're giving them, so that you can keep them in the loop and keep them interested. The results are terrific when you consistently. The number one Toyota dealership in New Mexico was a dealership that now is a public company, but when they were privately held, they did mail every week of every year, 365 days a year. They were doing mail 52 weeks a year.
Okay.
And they became the number one Toyota dealership in New Mexico. And it just blossomed in the service department, 100% absorption, just because they're taking care of their customers.
So when you look at, say, let's just say a dealer says, hey, to your point earlier, I got support from the manufacturer, they're sending out mail, I've got stuff on my website, and that's informing my customer understands my website because it's simple and whatever else. Why do I need to continually reach out. And I was actually in an interview today talking a little bit about these apps from these car manufacturers. But when you're looking at that from a point of view of, well, I'm not really losing anything, they're my customers. What's the drop off over time if they're not reaching out to customers?
Well, that's evident in the numbers. I mean, you know, when you look at the factory numbers saying that, you know, even the best have retention figures far below 50%. That's as a result of dealers. I mean, the factory's not doing it; it's the dealers. They're the arms and legs in the street. There's just so many ways to stay in touch with the customer. You just got to do it. The thing about it is too, you know, like social media. You know, there's a lot of social media that is supposed to secure all the things, but if you go to a Facebook ad, sometimes a Facebook will serve up your competitor on a Facebook post, and so that's one way to reach people, and it is an effective way in the new digital age. But I really believe that one-on-one, a hand-delivered message, targeted, talking to them about their experience at your dealership, talking to them about their car, talking to them about an offer for their vehicle. Those are the kinds of things that keep you tied to the customer.
So when you look at, I mean, everyone's talking about AI, they're talking about digital, they're talking about data, they're talking about technology, they're talking about the customer needs a text that's opposed to a phone call, they want an email and a text, they're not big on paper, the young people want it in a different way. I guess my question there is, like, you want obviously the biggest bang for your buck. You want to make sure that you're top of mind. You want to make sure that your perishable database isn't declining. What have you seen with a regular, mailing out for people or doing a bunch of things in terms of the health of their data, the engagement of their data, and then eventually, obviously, you could leverage that, I'm assuming, into like referral growth too, right? Like, because people hear about it. What have you seen as sort of the change by doing that? Oh, Larry's on. What do you think, Larry? I don't think you can hear him. Go ahead. Go ahead, AJ.
Yeah, the change is, lots of times dealers don't measure that change that you're talking about. They measure it in volume of sales. They measure it in growth. And the thing about it is that people want to have a relationship with their dealership. They really do. And people are creatures of habit. They will come back to the dealership as long as it's a pleasurable experience. So what are you doing to make that customer feel loved when he's there? What are you doing to make sure you got value? What are you doing to make sure it was a great experience? Make sure what are you doing to ask him to come back, to keep him coming back? Those are all questions that the service manager can ask, the sales manager can ask, the dealership can ask, the body shop can. They can ask all those questions to get that information from their customers as to what it was that made them come back and keep them coming back.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was working in the website space and I was working with dealers on offers, parts offers, service offers, sales offers. And the biggest thing that I got as I was working with dealers on a month-to-month basis to come up with these offers is, number one, they were looking at just the manufacturer's offer, but number two, they didn't have any idea of what offer to put out there on their website or in their digital ads. So I guess my question is, how do you work with a dealer who says, hey, I've never done this before? Like, maybe I have a tire special from the manufacturer, but I don't know, right?
Yeah. One of the things that we've done is like free windshield wiper replacement day.
Yeah.
Okay. So they come in for, everybody needs their windshield wipers replaced sometime, right? So you bring them in cases like that, or we're going to check your air conditioning before summer, just real quick coolant check.
Right.
Some things like that where they're sort of innocuous. They come in for a quick check, and then you can say, hey, wait a second, look at the balancing of your tires. The wheels need to be balanced, have the condition of your tires, anything else. You can sit down and talk to the service drive, can sit and talk with the customer about what's going on with their vehicle. Used car manager can ask them if they had the vehicle appraised. new car manager, I said, hey, geez, that's a nice 22 model, but have you seen the 25 model? There's some
Right.
features. Those are the kinds of things that will build a relationship with customers over and over and over.
Yeah, I mean, on last week's show, we had a gentleman from UVI, and if you're not familiar, it's kind of like the arch from some sci-fi film. But the thing that's interesting about that product is that it gives the dealership and, of course, the customer a lot of information, not only on their car. It takes about 10,000 photos or something crazy, but it also creates an experience for that customer who maybe used to drive through a hunter machine and have someone do a walk around. This is much more high tech. But the other thing that is important with this and any piece of technology is you still have to have the training for the people to say, okay, I've got a customer coming in. These are these 15 appointments that I'm going to be talking to. You got to get prepped for that appointment. But more importantly, you got to inform the customer of, this is what's due for your vehicle, but this is the offer that they may bring in, that kind of stuff. So when you send out these offers and you connect that customer to the dealer to come in for service, for example, or for parts, for example, is there any feedback that you're getting from the dealership as to the take rate of that offer? Is there any way to track that information? Like, how would that work?
Well, yeah, they're really good. And what we do with our system is, being a CDK partner on the Fortellis platform, we're able to download real-time service ROs for every RO that goes through the dealership for a day. We're able to match that to who we targeted and be able to justify the return on investment and show them, hey, look, we targeted these customers, previous customers with these models, with this offer. You can match back those operations and those ROs to those. And then you can also match back the gross profit that was generated off of those ROs to show the ROI and the effectiveness of the campaign. And, we'll even with the old days, we had coupons in the mailer, and then the service writer would ask for do you have the coupon for the oil change, or do you have the coupon for the tire rotation, or whatever it is? And the coupons, you got a stack of coupons at the end of the month of all the people that brought the coupons in to take advantage of the deal. The point is you got to give them some reason to come in, and you got to give them some reason to buy, some reason to take advantage, some reason to take action. And the mail grabs them. It really does. It's a hand-delivered, targeted marketing message, personalized, one-on-one, you and the customer. People buy from people. We talked about this before.
Yeah.
People buy from people. There's a lot of electronics out there. There's a lot of digitization, but the bottom line is people buy from people, and, people like people, and they want to deal with people and somebody they can trust.
Yeah. So when we're looking at obviously maintaining a database, retaining the customer, coming up with creative offers. We're looking at, obviously, the dealer's going to ask questions about, what's that all cost? But when they're doing digital ads and getting a bunch of visitors, but they're not converting to an appointment for service or sales or parts, and that's just not happening, what does the dealer really need to invest to get the result? And why would they sort of add this to their marketing? And we got Larry, I think, back on. Larry, did you have a thought here?
What was your question, Ian? I've been fading in and out because it's Valentine's Day and I'm out with my wife. But go ahead.
No worries. You're a trooper, Mr. Larry. So hopefully you got the roses and all that stuff. So we were talking a little bit about the silos of a car dealer, and we're talking about breaking down the silos. Like, we got sales, we got service, we got parts, we got body shop, and we're talking about retaining customers. But, obviously those businesses all got to work together to generate 5 streams of income that work together versus 1, which is sales, and the other ones are an afterthought. So we were talking about, how do you do that, getting a return on investment? So that was really the question.
It's easy. It's just a matter of everybody realizing how much they need each other. It's just incredibly stupid that sales and service don't understand that if we don't sell cars, they don't have anything to fix.
Right.
And if they don't make it a conducive atmosphere for people to come in and come back, we lose the next deal. So it's really simple. And dealers are scarier than salespeople and service people because you have a truer profit in fixed operations. and it's so easy to retain the people. You know, if you make it easy for them and price wise to come in for an oil change and tires, it just boggles my mind. I mean, you want, yeah, listen, I say it in almost every one of your darn shows. How the heck can it be mandatory in most places that you have to do a demo ride, but it's not mandatory to do a service walk? The way to break down the silo is realize that it's a symbiotic relationship and you have to work together. And if that's emphasized, and if upper management is in the game with that, then you have a shot. If not, you're dead. Because it's like the old, cowboy movies where the sheep herders and the cattle guys didn't like each other. It's just a natural battle that service seems to think we're a bunch of guys spoiled, running around in shirts and ties, making too much money. And we look at them as guys that just have dirty hands and never get a car ready when we need it. But if we understand that we need each other, and management and upper management and ownership understands that, I don't really think it's that difficult. But as long as somebody's not involved and thinking the right way, I think we're in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, we did a survey, or I did a survey that I'm running right now on how can dealers increase sales profit. I know it's not specifically on fixed ops, but when you're looking at training and process enhancements seem to be the biggest thing. Now, obviously, to your point, if you have training where all the teams are having a group meeting, but more importantly, the sales is handing off to service, the service is handing off to parts, F&I is working with everybody else, the body shop is identifying opportunities, all that kind of stuff, that obviously breaks down the silos. But when you're looking at dealers, and you've owned dealerships and work with them all the time, what do you see as sort of the ones that are doing it right to work as a unified team to grow that, and the ones that are doing it wrong? And what's the difference?
The difference is, and it's really interesting. If you got a family and the mother and father have 4 kids, okay, no matter how much they tell you they love all their kids, there's one kid they always love more. In my case, Ian, it was me. But if you met my brothers and sisters, you'd understand why. That's a whole different show. We got to get more neuroses into that. But the point is, the favorite child in most of these places is variable.
Right.
And the stepchild is service. It should actually be, if not equal, be the other way around. Because the retention, and as I said, the profit is pure in fixed operations. Every dealership should have sales service meetings on a regular basis. You order some pizzas, you break down the barriers of the silos, if you will. What we did, and I think you guys will like this, we had contests, not sales contests, dealership-wide contests, where we broke everybody up into 3 teams. So each team had some salespeople, some service people, some parts people, and some body shop people, even the detailers.
Yeah.
Now, guys that didn't know each other or didn't like each other became the best of friends because they had a mutual interest with some cash money involved. That's all. Just put people in a position where they get to know each other and work together. And it's amazing how quickly those barriers can come down. Ian, when you were a kid, when you're a kid, you watch weird stuff.
Yeah.
When you were a kid, did you ever watch wrestling?
Yeah, WWF, I think. What was that? Hulk Hogan and the boys back in the day?
Yeah. Remember Bruno Sammartino.
Yeah.
Listen, wrestling's the greatest example.
Yeah.
In wrestling, since it's phony, they make the bad guys really bad and the good guys really good. But if the bad guy turns on another bad guy, all of a sudden you love him. In hockey, the guy that beats up your star player, you want to kill him until he's on your team and now he's beating somebody else's star player.
Right.
So it's not that hard to turn the enemies into friends if you give them a mutual target and make them understand, hey, it's so good to finally get to know you. Let's work together.
Oh, 100%.
There's another aspect that we haven't talked about, and that is planning. And what I mean by that is the parts department talking to the service department, talking to the marketing department about campaigns that they're running for service. For example, you run a campaign that you don't have the parts for when the customer comes. So now the customer's not going to have his car for 3 days or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of manufacturers right now that are still going through that problem where vehicles are in the service department for months at a time because of parts backlogs. So those kinds of things, they affect sales. I'm never going to buy another one of those cars because the service department is terrible, because the service on that is crap. We can't get parts for it. All those types of things happen, and those are part of the synergies of all the departments at a dealership that need to work together when they're doing stuff. So, or you can do it the other way. You go, okay, we've got extra parts in this particular aspect of what we can repair, so therefore let's have a campaign because the parts are here.
Right.
And we've got all the components that the mechanics are going to need when the customers come in. So those are the kinds of things that they could do to make sure that it's efficient and the customer has a good experience.
So don't do a campaign when you don't have the parts.
Yeah, but Ian, I think his idea is way too radical. How can you possibly suggest that departments communicate with each other? That'll never work.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that you bring that up. So I did some damage to my vehicle, and I went in and they looked at it and they ordered the parts. And then the two people in the same department aren't communicating. They're both reaching out to me simultaneously, and then one's not talking to the other one. But to AJ's point there, if I've got a recall on a certain vehicle, or if I've got an offer on a certain vehicle or an accessories thing, before I reach out and cause a bigger problem, I should probably check to see if I got the parts available, so that the customers are showing up and going, okay, well, why am I here, right? Like, why are you bringing me in?
How about if now your sales and service teams like each other, like he was saying, and work together,
yeah,
and they let the salesman know, and the salesman says, listen, just so you know, there's a little tricky situation now with parts, but they're working on it, and I'm working on this, and here we got your little gift card. Again, if everybody can make everybody feel like you're important to us, we care, I'm sorry there's a problem. Oftentimes when somebody's aggravated, all that they really want to do is have somebody listen to them. And once they've got the venom out, then you can put your arm around them and maybe come up with a solution. Because I don't care what you run, any business, and particularly our business, you are going to have situations where there's a part or their car came in undamaged and the lock guy hit something. So that's why it's so important that when there is stress, we work together to alleviate the stress. Make sense, guys?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Talk about another aspect too, and that is, we talked a little bit about AI. And I know a lot of dealers are thinking about getting AI and automated answering services for their telephone systems. And I got to tell you, we listen to a lot of calls when we mail. We put a call tracking number, and we listen to these calls. And people are calling in for service or whatever reason they're calling. But now they're talking to AI, and they get bounced around the dealership, and then nobody answers the phone. It goes to a recorded message, leave a message in the dealership, and all the guy wants to do is talk to somebody. And
talk to a human.
I've heard people say, I want to talk to, they're talking to the recording, or they're talking to the AI responder, and they're saying, I just want to talk to a person.
They weren't angry. They just had a question, and now they're furious. Do you listen to a lot of calls where people call in? All right, well, maybe I can do a public service to you. Would you like the phone number to the anti-suicide line? Because that'll drive you to it. Dealers that think their team is good. These are the same dealers, by the way, that tell you how good their website is, because they never go to their own website to check out all the broken links and how long it takes to navigate from one page to the other.
Right. Oh, yeah. And you blow their mind if they'll just sit down and listen to 10 calls. Their mind will be blown. I mean, the salesman doesn't get their name. They don't ask questions. They don't ask them to come in. They'll say unbelievable things. It's just.
I just had a class. I had a class in Waynesboro, Georgia. Great people. Got 9 guys hired, and I asked the same question I ask all over the country, and I did it in Canada. What do you say to the guy that says, I only have 10 minutes, I got to go watch my son play ball? The answer is not, I can do it in 10 minutes. The answer is, what does your son or daughter play? It's so easy to build communication if your brain is working.
Right. And recognize that people are people, and you want to start a conversation with the people, make a friend so that you can get trust. People want to know if they can trust you. Are you committed? And do you really care about me? Those 3 things. And you can do that in 10 minutes. You're right.
Yep. Don't take long. it's interesting. These people come in sometimes ready to buy and ready to be happy, and we invent every problem we can to make them miserable. Really, it's almost like we get up in the morning and say, what can we do to screw everything up?
And I have to do a shout out to Don Andres. He sent me a book, Why Service Departments Fail to Grow. I haven't read it yet, but I will have a review once I do read it. And if you are dealing with women in your business, Katie Maris sent me this book, or gave me this book, More Money, More Women, More Money. And I think it's pertinent because we're talking about service departments, and it's service departments are notorious for women thinking maybe they're being overcharged. So I think a lot of it is experience, but a lot of it is how am I communicating that to the customer remotely?
And a lot of that is because women, Bruce Springsteen is a liar. He calls himself the boss. The boss is Mrs. Springsteen. Women are the boss. They influence 80% of the buying decisions and buy 60% of the cars. But when they come into a dealership, they feel like they're in a strip club. Guys flirt with them, call them honey, ask them if they're coming back with their husband. And we do every stupid thing we can to antagonize the decision makers. The dumbest thing on earth. So once again, it's if they would just look in the mirror and say, I'm a guy. Maybe I better talk to my wife, my sister, my grandmother, my niece, and ask them how they want to be treated. And maybe I can improve my performance and make my customers happy.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, when I was working for Dealer Effects, I was working in service departments with tablets, and these tablets had the recommended service for the car that the customer was driving. So it would actually tell them what to buy. All the service writer had to do was actually just say, okay, here's what the factory recommends based on the mileage on your car and the age of the car and the type of vehicle. All you have to do is agree to it. And customers loved it. But what was interesting when I was training service writers on this is they were scared to get out from behind their podium with their computer and actually greet the customer. Once they started doing it, it was a no-brainer. But the thing that was interesting was all the customer wanted to do was have an understanding of what it is they needed so that they didn't have a problem later on.
Ian, how many dealers understand that your salespeople aren't just up front, they're in the service department. And if they embrace every customer and make every customer feel comfortable and do a walk around on every damn car and make it easier to be reached, whether it's through the operators back there or whoever, then the whole process gets simpler. When people come in to buy a car, they might be nervous about our reputation, but they're excited to get something.
Yeah, and also
I was excited to go to service. Oh man, I can't wait to go there and wait 9 hours and find out it's expensive. So if you know you've got that struggle ahead of time, you got to be twice as charming. You got to listen better. You've got to make it conducive, and as your buddy said, it's got to all be about communication.
Well, yeah,
Because,
I mean,
man, when they don't call you back and you don't know if you're going to have a car to pick up your kid, you lose your mind. A little bit of communication could solve the problem.
It's some of the best service writers I've ever seen and trained are ones that go, okay, well, you're here for service ABC. We're going to do these things. Is there any other concerns on your car that you want us to look at while you're here? It's kind of like going to the dentist going, yeah, this tooth hurts, but did you want us to look at the other tooth or you just want us to fix that one?
That's exactly right. Exactly right.
AJ, what's your thought?
Well, I agree with Larry completely. I mean, everything he's saying is right. There's heck, my wife.
Ian, I'm not real warm with you, but I'm really starting to like AJ.
My wife goes into the Mercedes dealership and she says that she feels like 1,000 eyes are on her, even across a huge showroom, and they're all talking to one another. You know how they're all crowded around each other. And of course, they might not be talking about her, but she thinks they are. You know what I mean? And she feels intimidated.
AJ, it's projection. If you're having a fight with your lovely wife and you get off the phone angry and you now talk to a customer and you're still angry, what do they think you're angry at? Them.
Right. So you're right. There's a whole lot of training you can spend months talking about this particular problem with women, and especially in the service department. They don't, they think it's fix one and break two. There's a whole lot. Dealers really got to work on this stuff, and I think that I'm sorry, but I just think dealers have made so much money in the last 4 or 5 years that they forgot about all the basics of the business in so many ways.
Yeah, but you got to be careful, AJ. They got to be careful. I wrote a book called Inner Moron Demons, How to Avoid Them and How to Live Your Best Life. Ian's read it. If you ever need a laugh, pick it up on Amazon. And in it, I have a line that I think everybody should remember in business and in life. If you want to get rich and stay rich, act like you're broke. And if you want to go broke, act like you're rich. I've seen some pretty big companies that you would never in a million years think would have a problem go out. Because expenses continue. Certainly situations can turn around. I mean, we went from, there's 4 cars in the lot, they're all $10,000 over. Do you want them or not? You know, and with 0% on floor plan.
Yeah.
And now these same guys woke up and said, all my staff is back, so I'm paying them. I have cars now, but they're not selling as much because we buried people in cars and the interest rate's killing me. So making a lot of money and keeping it isn't always the same thing. Again, you seem like you've been around a while. I bet you've seen plenty of businesses that were stable, and now they're gone.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And, you know, we haven't talked about this, but I'm sure it's on the forefront of every dealer's mind of what's happening with these tariffs and how that's going to affect things, because, you know, manufacturers depend on a lot of these companies that are outside of the U.S. for could be a harness, or could be, you know, something for the dashboard or the seats, or, you know, who knows what it could be, tires, whatever.
Yeah.
And one item is going to stop the flow of cars coming to dealerships, which is going to change the dynamics for a while. I mean, it could totally upend the used car business. What's going to happen with used cars again? What's going to happen with service because you can't get the parts? Who knows? But you know,
I don't think you'll see that as much of a problem as people are predicting, because while Trump is a little crazy, he's not stupid. And I think what he's going to do, and he said it, I'm not, you know, speculating here, what he's going to do is say to people, I don't have to raise my tariffs, you just have to lower yours.
Yeah.
Because one of the problems we have in the States is we charge lower tariffs on our imports, and everybody else charges us on the exports. He just had an Indian's prime minister in there. They're killing us. You know, the Europeans, they bring in 675,000 cars. We send out 236,000. So I don't think he's looking to do anything that's going to hurt anybody. His whole premise was based on, let me straighten out the economy, and you're not going to do that if less goods, less services. That's the definition, you know, how inflation works. I think he's just going to threaten people with the tariffs and make them lower theirs rather than us raise ours. Again, like every other politician.
I hope you're right.
I hope you're right too, Larry, because I think when you look at the integrated supply chain, and we look at new car prices over the last 4 years, and you look at used car prices that were way up and now they've come back down, I think you're going to see some very interesting dynamics around new and used car pricing.
Yep. And
more importantly, I think you will see a reduction in interest rates, but I don't think it's acceptable to have a 15 to 25% increase in car prices.
Well,
that's the interesting thing.
Ian, you invited the wrong guests. You invited Larry and AJ. You should have invited Sir Isaac Newton, who would have explained that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction.
Fair enough.
AJ, tell the truth.
We could have told you that if you'd asked, right? Yeah. we would have told you that if you'd asked us.
Yeah, come on. You don't be playing me and AJ cheap. We came prepared tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I had a number of conversations. I did 3 interviews today already, and I had a number of conversations about this with a lot of different companies in the auto space. And the thing that was interesting was nobody seems to know, but more interesting than that is the rate of change globally on the political side from leadership is accelerating. But more importantly, if I'm a dealer, and this is pertinent to the show today, if I'm a dealer and I don't know what the volatility on the new car or used car side is going to be, I better focus on the fixed op side. At least I can predict, revenue there a little better, and that should even up the boat. So part of the reason for the show today was to talk about that, was to say, hey, let's just say I have a 40% service retention. I better get that dialed in quick, because I need to rely on that revenue to take me forward, right?
Well, it's always been called absorption.
Yeah.
The whole key was to make as much of your expense done, and if you got to 100%, and then every dollar profit went right into your pocket on the front end. But once again, the amount of business lost to tire places, to quick change oil changes, and it's all unnecessary. They just have to dial into how important that department is to continue their business and as a profit structure and go there. But again,
another aspect of that I'm seeing a lot of, and I'm working with some people to fix it for dealers that have the problem, but they're not getting their warranty claims processed properly. And, you know, if you don't do the right operation and you don't adhere to the rules, the factory is going to do whatever they can to make sure that you don't get that claim paid. And so a lot of money can be tied up just in that. And, you know, that communication aspect of making sure that the paperwork, the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed in your warranty claims processing is.
AJ, how many dealers, your point's brilliant. How many dealers do you work with? A lot, a little?
We work with probably right now 200 to.
Okay, so you'll agree with me that of the 200, you're lucky if 30% have a clean warranty administrator where the stuff makes sense and everything goes. Because
Doesn't happen.
No. So I'm with you 100%, and that's the quickest way to get somebody in and keep them happy and keep them safe. But if you screw up those claims enough and tie that money up when you've already tied up the time, again, it's just you call me up and you say, Larry, I don't know what the hell I could do, you know, to get healthy. I says, well, tell me about yourself. What do you do, AJ? I mean, I only met you on the phone. Well, you know, I do my 5 cartons of cigarettes a day. And of course, I like to drink vodka for breakfast. And I think exercise is ridiculous. Well, shit, I think I have 3 ideas for you. But keep, you know, but now we jumped from Isaac Newton to Einstein. Definition of insanity, doing the same thing and expecting a different result. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I worked with a Mitsubishi dealer in California, and they're the largest seller of Mitsubishi parts in North America. And I was like, how did you get into that business? He goes, nobody was doing it.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know,
your point about 40% service absorption, I don't even know what the numbers are, but I did, like I said, talking to some people about warranty claims processing, and they say rarely now can a dealer even approach 100% service absorption, which is the gold standard. It really was the gold standard of the industry for years and years and years. And I think that it's probably attainable. I don't know.
Sure it is.
But
sure it is.
You just got to have best practices in place at all the time and make sure that you got accountability and you're making sure that there's proper communication across the board.
AJ, instead of best practices, how about some practices? How about, because I see dealers that have 5 processes, which means they have no processes.
Exactly.
I got some numbers for you, and they're from ChatGPT, but they may not be accurate. But they say your typical car brands, domestic car brands typically achieve a service retention rate of around 55%, meaning 55% of their service clients return for service within a 12-month period. Import brands often see higher retention, approximately 60%, while luxury or highline cars can reach up to 65%. Customer loyalty programs have significant impact, but they're saying Meineke rewards program boasts a 70% retention rate. So what that tells you is the third parties are killing it, right?
The fallacy is there is the 12-month period.
Yeah.
Everybody goes back to the dealership for the warranty.
Right, because there's no cost to them, and it's right, exactly right.
Everybody. But after that, forget about it. That's where they're missing it. And people like Meineke with rewards programs and loyalty programs and stuff, that's the key. That really is.
Yeah, so they talk about that as well, just to let you know. It's also noted that car owners are more likely to use dealerships departments for vehicles up to 3 years old. So 73%. But after that, it's less than 55%.
You ready for your next quote, Ian?
Yeah, go.
Now we're going to Mark Twain. There's lies, damn lies, and then there's statistics.
Oh, yeah.
We all know you can make them look like any damn thing you want them to.
Yeah. But even if that number's 50% as a blended average or 45%, if I do targeted marketing, if I use AJ's company, I have my team reach out, I do digital marketing, I do all the above, and I communicate, if I can move that needle 10% and I got volatility on the front end of the house, I'm going to have more money, right?
And what would happen if it was mandatory? You walk people through service, and in service, there was a tire display and an oil change, and the service advisor said, gosh, it would be such a pleasure to earn your business. And by the way, keep in mind, if you ever need tires or oil changes, we're competitive. And this way, you know you're getting the right parts and the right factory authorizations, which will protect you and save you money in the long run. What'd that take? 20 seconds?
Yeah, you're right, Larry. I've seen dealerships just totally jumpstart their entire service gross profit by selling tires.
Absolutely.
Selling tires.
Because what your statement shows you at the end of the month, AJ, is what you made, but it doesn't show you what you lost. You know, what disappeared out of the side door.
Right. What were the opportunities past?
Yeah.
Well, we're almost out of time. So any final thoughts, being that it's Valentine's Day, for those car dealers who want a Valentine's Day special or something like that?
Yeah, AJ, I'm Larry Feldman. I'm a little shy, but if you can see, you can draw me out of my shell. If you reach out to me on LinkedIn, if you're on, I'd love to get involved with you. You sound like you're really smart. And usually the people I meet on Ian's show, we find a way to connect and help each other and make some money and network a lot. So
I love it, Larry. I love it.
You reach out, I'll definitely accept it.
We will do that. And I have to say, you're probably one of the funniest guys I've heard. I mean, you're really funny. You're really
well, you know what? I figured out a long time ago. I sold a lot of cars. I ran a successful dealership. And man, I have a heck of a business, thank God, with recruiting and training all over the country and a little bit in Canada. And it's hard for somebody to argue with you if they're smiling. So,
exactly.
You know.
Excellent. Another great show, Ian. Thank you for having us.
Yep.
Oh, no worries.
Thank you for having us.
It was terrific. Really appreciate you coming up with great questions, great discussion, great people. I mean, just doing an awesome job. So thank you again for the opportunity to be on the show.
No problem. My pleasure. Thanks for jumping on, and have yourself a great Valentine's Day. I'll forgive people who didn't show up for that reason. And have yourself a great weekend.
Did you hear that? Do you hear what he just said, AJ? You and me are lonely. That's why we showed up. All that goodwill just went silent.
I'm doing good. I'm doing fine. I'm doing real good.
All right, stay healthy,
you are too,
guys.
I'll tell you what, Larry, you better go get some flowers because you said you didn't do it.
Yeah, I heard that too. Okay.
I hear they sell plastic ones at stations, gas stations. Or at least you used to.
Out, AJ, and let's link up. And Ian, as usual, thank you.
Oh, no worries. My pleasure. All right, we're out.